Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Right now it is 6 a.m. and I'm about to launch the boat out on Lake Chickamauga, just waiting on some friends. We're going to go out fishing. The guys that helped me paint my house, Jan, Brandon, Marlowe, they're coming down, and we're going to try to catch some bass on Lake Chickamauga. It has been tough. And in fact, I've heard about a fish kill going on right now. I've heard from like 5 different people within the last few days. And so that's kind of alarming, to be honest. But it doesn't seem to hurt the amount of fishermen out here. Check it out. Look at, it's already pretty packed out there. I mean, it is just navigation lights as far as you can see. That's the TVA right now. That's what we kind of experienced over at Lake Wheeler last week, and just kind of the norm, man. Since COVID, it seems like the fish never get a rest. But anyways, today, before I head out on the lake, I got a question from a viewer just I think this morning, asking do I still think it was the right decision to change leagues, to change from the pro circuit, which is now defunct. It's not, the pro circuit doesn't exist anymore. It's now the invitationals, and it's, you know, there's no championship involved with it and all that stuff. But now I'm fishing the opens. So do I regret, or do I still think it was the right move? And so I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts on that question, because I think it is a good question. The very, very short answer to it, and then we'll get into detail on why I feel that way, is 110%. I made the right decision to go over to the Bassmaster Opens to fish the EQ, which means that I'm you know, in the running to make the Elite Series, because I fish all 9. Okay, and they're offering 9 different spots for the for guys to move up to the Elite Series, and that is the whole reason why I'm fishing the Opens. That's the only reason why I moved over to fish the Opens, is because of this new qualification structure. You know, the Opens are not a place where you're able to really make a living, you know, in the sport of tournament fishing. You can do fairly well, and if you have sponsor backing, you can still make a living doing it. But you know, I've made 2 checks now and have a little bit over $7,000, you know, in earnings for the year, which compared to the pro circuit, man, the pro circuit, every time I got a check, it was like a $10,000 check, a substantial, you know, income. And yeah, the entry fees were way more. And so I was still making much more. I was profiting much more on the pro circuit. So looking back on my season so far, it's not exactly what I wanted, for sure. And it really the only tournament where it was like, man, I really screwed up, was Bugs Island. Bugs Island was the only tournament that really, I consider a bad tournament so far. We've only had 4 events, but Bugs Island, I finished 163rd. I had 2 limits. I have not caught a limit so far this season, but you know, because the weights were so tight, and I also got a 1 pound penalty, which cost me about 10 different spots, you know, it was finishing 163rd, man, that really, really hurts. And the guys at the top right now are just absolutely crushing it. They've got a tremendously good average finish. Now, after, you know, that's only after 4 tournaments, and that's pretty standard for you know, having 3 or 4 tournaments. You know, you're going to see those guys that have had just strung together 3 or 4 just phenomenal tournaments in a row, and things are going to change. You're going to start seeing, you know, the 9th place guy in the standings have more of a 45th, 50th place average. And so that's kind of the benchmark that I'm trying to achieve. 163rd definitely hurt. And really put me in a position where I have to be fairly flawless for the rest of the year. I just logged a 67th at Wheeler, which is still in the top 30% of the field. So it actually moved me up 6 spots in points. So didn't hurt, helped a little bit, but I got to do better. I have to be in the top 30 in at least the next, I have to have a good 30th place average over the next 5 tournaments. So really, really have to put the pressure on and work hard at it. But, the question, did I make the right decision? I absolutely made the right decision to go over to the Bassmaster Opens because, I'm 36 now. I am at that period in time where I'm going to be in my prime in the sport in the next, 8 years or so. And I need to position myself in the league that I feel like I want to run for the rest of my career, run with for the rest of, my tournament fishing career. And Bassmaster is it, We've got a little girl now, Riley Elizabeth, and I want to be able to share the sport with her as well as my wife Katie, who both of them have sacrificed and will sacrifice a lot. Just with the travel schedule, all these things going on that they have to deal with me being away from home and all that. And it is a weird lifestyle at times. So, but to give them ownership, they have to have events like the Bassmaster Classic. And the Classic is really the only event out there nowadays that has that kind of like, weight to it. It is the deal. And when you make the Classic and you and your family can walk around that expo and also, cheer for you in that stadium, that gives them ownership over this sport too. And that to me was very, very important. So, moving to the Opens it is definitely, it wasn't a difficult decision, but it was one that, you're just kind of like, gosh, this is hopefully, it'll happen this year, but, really realistically, it's going to be like a 2 or 3 year plan to make the Elite Series. And maybe even more than that, it's very difficult. Some of the best anglers in the world, Brett Ayler, I think, took 5 or 6 years to make the Elite Series finally. And I consider him one of the absolute best. And that was like when he was at his prime. So the Opens are definitely and I don't mean this in a real derogatory or mean way, but the Opens are kind of a money pit. You're spending a lot in expenses. The entry fees are reasonable, but there's just not a lot of good payout to go around if you don't make the top 6 or 7 in every tournament. And so financially speaking, it's a difficult league to be in. But that's not the point. The point is not to make a bunch of money while I'm fishing the Opens. It's about setting myself up for the future. And I'm all about the big picture and long term. And if I feel like I'm doing something that is not helping me for the future, that's when I regret making a certain decision. But when it comes to the Bassmaster Opens, 110%, I am totally content and happy with the decision that I've made. It's where I need to be. The Elite Series is the top echelon. It is where I want to be for the rest of my career, potentially. And so, yeah, we're going to be working our tail off. Yeah, Bugs Island really set us behind. It was a real big bummer But you know what? We're not out of it. We actually had 2 good tournaments to start out with. We got 2 checks in a row. And this last one wasn't that far off from a check. And so we've got 3 decent tournaments in the bag and 1 just absolute bomb. I wish we could drop our worst finish of the season, but we can't, so got to live with that. But anyways, guys, I forget who it was that asked that question, but I appreciate you asking that question. Hopefully I answered that question to your liking. But yeah, man, I am happy to be where I'm at, and I cannot wait to make the next level. So thank you guys for all the support. Thank you for watching, and make sure that you guys trust the process. That's how we get to the next level in whatever we're doing. Trust that process, get after it, follow your dreams. That's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm going to see you guys out on the water. Hopefully we can catch a bass out on Lake Chickamauga, even with a fish kill and all these guys out here for the Big Bass Tour.